Welcome, seekers of truth. Today we explore the grim reality of this deadly urban war zone. Many assume a force with advanced weapons and total air command will claim a rapid victory. Yet the ruined streets and dark subterranean tunnels of the city have shattered this illusion. Here, an advanced war machine clashes with a phantom resistance, turning the broken city to traps. How does a vastly outgunned militia neutralize a superpower? Let us descend to find out now. This densely populated coastal strip stands as a modern urban battlefield, unlike any on Earth. Above ground, the invading vanguard projects absolute dominance with supreme and heavy armor. Massive battle tanks roll through shattered concrete streets, crushing everything in their unyielding path. Precision drones and advanced fighter jets patrol the skies, tracking targets with high thermal imaging. Every tactical movement is calculated by sophisticated computers and satellite feeds. In standard combat logic, overwhelming firepower should guarantee an absolute and rapid win. However, their fierce adversary operates on a completely different philosophy of war. The urban guerrilla fighters blend seamlessly into the vast, chaotic landscape of destroyed buildings. Lacking air support and heavy armor, they rely entirely on the element of dark surprise. They weaponize the very ruins themselves, turning shattered balconies into lethal sniper nests. For these fighters, the cramped and broken city streets provide the ultimate tactical camouflage. They observe the advancing columns from the deep shadows, waiting patiently for the perfect strike. This is asymmetric combat, where the weak exploit the rigid strength of a truly powerful army. Defense analysts note that superior technology does not always secure the fractured ground. The vanguard must secure every single block, checking endless angles for hidden explosive traps. A simple pile of rubble might conceal a deadly weapon aimed at a vulnerable armor point. The mental toll on the advancing infantry is staggering as they face constant, unseen threats. Their heavy protective gear becomes a suffocating burden under the unforgiving, scorching sun. Meanwhile, the defenders move lightly, carrying only what they need for a quick and deadly strike. They do not seek a traditional open battle, knowing they would be instantly vanquished with ease. Instead, they aim to inflict steady losses to break the unyielding will of the invading force. Every destroyed building creates much more complex terrain for the advancing soldiers to navigate. The heavy bombardment meant to clear the path, ironically, provides much better cover for defense. Yet the true nightmare for the modern vanguard lies hidden deep beneath these shattered surface streets. The real war is not fought in the sunlight, but in a vast and terrifying subterranean maze. Welcome to the shadowed underworld, a sprawling network of reinforced tunnels spanning miles on end. Built deep underground, this complex labyrinth completely neutralizes the advantage of airstrikes. Down here, advanced satellite tracking and thermal imaging sensors are rendered completely blind. Highly equipped soldiers must leave the safety of their armored vehicles and descend into the dark. Entering the tunnels, the bold invaders immediately face an extreme claustrophobia. The air grows heavy and damp, thick with floating concrete dust, and the truly haunting echoes of war. Specialized engineering units lead the way, scanning the floor for deadly pressure plate explosives. Their heavy protective suits slow their movement, making them vulnerable targets in the narrow space. The sophisticated radio systems desperately struggle to penetrate the thick concrete walls. Suddenly, the high-tech army is forced to fight a primitive war of close-quarters attrition. The resistance fighters navigate the pitch-black corridors with the terrifying ease of ghosts. They use wired communication lines to plan attacks, avoiding any electronic jamming sweeps. Blast doors and reinforced concrete arches protect them from the concussive force of heavy surface bombs. These tunnels serve as weapons depots, command centers, and invisible staging grounds for ambushes. A fighter can emerge from a hidden surface hatch, fire a rocket, and vanish back underground. Before the advanced tank can even pivot its heavy turret, the attacker is completely gone. This hit-and-run strategy frustrates the armored vanguard, dragging them into a dark, deadly trap. The highly trained infantry find themselves fighting an enemy they can rarely ever see clearly. Every dark intersection in the tunnel system could hide a remote-controlled explosive device. If you were forced to lead a squad into this dark abyss, how would you handle the immense terror? As the underground battles rage on, the structural integrity of the entire city weakens. Massive explosions below cause the remaining surface structures to suddenly collapse inward. Combat engineers must carefully calculate every breach, risking the lives of their own soldiers. Dogs equipped with cameras are sent into the narrowest shafts to hunt for the elusive fighters. Yet even these advanced biological tools frequently fall victim to cleverly hidden tripwires. The vast technological might of the modern state is slowly bleeding out in the dark shadows. Historians note that deep subterranean warfare has always favored the entrenched defender. From ancient sieges to modern conflicts, fighting underground is the ultimate great equalizer. The surface destruction is terrible, but the underground war is a slow and agonizing grind. And yet, an even darker moral dilemma haunts the soldiers as they push deeper into the city. This intense battlefield is not empty. It is heavily populated by innocent civilians. The dense urban environment makes it impossible to separate the fighters from the innocent. Defenders strategically operate from residential blocks to complicate incoming airstrikes. The modern army claims to use precision weapons, but the collateral damage remains massive. Each massive explosion creates tragic silhouettes of families caught in the brutal crossfire. The world watches closely as the civilian toll rises, sparking massive international outrage. This pressure becomes a strategic weapon for the defenders, fighting a war of public perception. Destroyed infrastructure heavily damages the political standing of the invading forces. Can you truly claim a military victory if it costs you the support of the entire world? The advancing troops are caught in an impossible balancing act of survival and global ethics. A moment of hesitation to verify a target can cost a soldier their life in these tight ruins. But a hasty decision to fire could result in a truly devastating and tragic human loss. The stress of urban combat fractures the minds of the young soldiers, forced to clear every room. They face a terrifying reality, where a simple doorway can erupt into a storm of fire. A fighter disguised in civilian clothing can pull a hidden weapon and strike without warning. The psychological warfare is just as deadly as the physical bullets flying through the thick air. The defenders know their home intimately, moving through familiar alleyways with lethal precision. They use snipers positioned in high-rise ruins to pin down entire squads of heavily armed troops. A single, well-placed shot forces the advancing column to halt and call for heavy artillery. By the time the massive explosive payload arrives, the Phantom Sniper has already relocated. This endless cycle of ambush and bombardment reduces the once vibrant city to an ash wasteland. The heavy tanks, designed for open desert warfare, become clumsy targets in the narrow city streets. Rocket-propelled grenades strike the reactive armor, creating truly deafening blasts and blinding smoke. Even with active protection systems, the sheer volume of close-range attacks takes a brutal, heavy toll. Every meter of forward progress is measured in spilled blood and millions of dollars in destroyed gear. The financial cost for the high-tech army is astronomical compared to the cheap rebel weapons. A mere $2,000 rocket can easily disable a $10 million war machine. This economic asymmetry is a fundamental pillar of the guerrilla combat strategy. As the brutal conflict drags into its final stages, the limits of pure military power emerge. The exhausted soldiers stand atop mountains of rubble, staring blankly at the destroyed horizon. Their faces are blackened by soot and trauma, reflecting the terrifying cost of urban combat. They have conquered the surface, but the shadows beneath their boots remain a truly hostile territory. Meanwhile, the surviving fighters fade back into the deep darkness, preparing to fight another day. They have proven that a vastly inferior force can still effectively bleed a colossal giant. Strategic experts conclude that technology alone cannot solve deeply rooted ancient resentments. This coastal labyrinth stands as a grim laboratory for the terrifying future of city wars. It highlights the brutal reality that destroying a city does not mean defeating its defenders. The willpower to survive and resist often outlasts the fuel and ammunition of the conqueror. As the dust settles on this isolated battlefield, a much larger global conflict begins to brew. The tactical lessons learned in these ruined streets are being studied by massive empires globally. From this narrow strip of land, look outward to a much larger and much darker global battlefield. The tactics forged in the dark concrete tunnels will redefine how major superpowers wage war. Heavy armor and advanced sensors are highly vulnerable in these dense urban combat zones. Global powers watching now realize that invading a fortified city is a total nightmare. A poorly equipped but deeply embedded local force can bleed the world's strongest military dry. The devastating mental trauma inflicted on these soldiers will haunt an entire generation. War in the 21st century is no longer decided by massive open-field tank battles. It is decided in the dark, suffocating basements and shattered living rooms of civilian homes. This horrific clash of military doctrines proves that superior force has terrifying limits. Even the most advanced satellite cannot see through a thick layer of reinforced concrete and dirt. Even the smartest drone is practically useless when the fierce enemy moves silently beneath the earth. The ultimate cost is paid by the innocent families caught in the devastating crossfire. Their destroyed neighborhoods serve as a painful reminder of the massive collateral damage. Distant leaders issue their commands, but the soldiers must now bleed for every single inch of ground. As this brutal and exhausting campaign continues, the whole world watches the unfolding tragedy. The profound legacy of this ancient labyrinth will undoubtedly reshape the future of conflict. From these blood-soaked ruins, a grim new standard for all asymmetric urban warfare has been born. This bloody urban labyrinth proves that modern weapons cannot easily defeat determined ghosts. In asymmetric combat, does advanced firepower matter, or is willpower supreme? Share your thoughts. If you found this tactical breakdown valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel today.